I'm proud to be part of a university with such an extraordinary history, and I think women play an incredible role in that.
I am a passionate and staunch supporter of women in every way, shape, and form.
How can we make a change? How can we bring people together to unite for a greater good?
My first real memory of Princeton was when I was 9. Our family came to a football game with my father, class of 1952, and on to campus club after. The sense of camaraderie and community was amazing, and I decided I wanted to go to Princeton. The catch was, Princeton was all male. Fast forward, June 1969. My father's reading the PA, and he looks up and said, "Guess what? Princeton just announced that they're going co-ed. You can apply."
I think that one of the most startling, eye-opening moments for me was not really when I was here as an undergraduate. It was actually in 1993, a couple of days before my graduation, when I did P-Raid for the first time. And it was the first time that I saw the parade of classes go by, which were all men except for the spouses, until it got to the years of coeducation. And it never really dawned on me in such an impactful way that coeducation was very recent, basically happened around the time that I was born. And so it was such a stunning visualization for me just to see it in such a happy celebratory way with P-Raid.
To be a woman at Princeton in 1969, September of 69, was actually much more difficult than I had imagined it to be. It was the midst of the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, the beginning of the women's and LGBTQ movements, so a lot was happening on campus and in the world at large.
Princeton launched into admitting women in the spring of 1969, and there were a lot of structures that didn't exist for women students. So it was both a challenge and an opportunity. And I remember saying to my mother, "I'm going to be a pioneer."
Princeton opened me up to the world. I was from a small southern town where a very poor high school, and I was poor. And the girls in my high school were required to take cooking and sewing, and the boys took shop where they made a gun rack. As a female especially, I sort of had to hide that I was smart or couldn't. I was frustrated that I didn't have things I could learn, things to study. And then I got to Princeton. The day I got my admission, which was April 19th, 1971, I counted that as my birthday.
When I first got to Princeton, I had a chance to hear the famous anthropologist Margaret Mead. She was speaking to us women, and she said to us, "You women have absolutely no business being here." And she continued, "Because these men don't have a clue what to do with you."
Being a woman at Princeton during 1973-77, there was a sense of being special, of doing something new, of being a pioneer, of having young women in Princeton where few women had gone before.
I was your first female chapel watchman, your first student sex ed counselor as a virgin.
I am proud to be the first woman to be accepted to the School of Architecture.
I was a member of the first women's athletic team, the women's tennis team.
The first term when I was elected as a class officer, all 4 of the elected officers of my class were women, and that was a Princeton first.
I was elected to become the first female president of the American Wig Cliosophic Society.
During my junior year at Princeton, I had the good fortune of being part of a group of students and the only female to interview former President Gerald Ford in Washington. And during that interview, I asked President Ford if he foresaw a woman as President of the United States. And believe it or not, I cannot remember what he said, but I'm sure he said that there would be a woman president.
I think that being one of the few women on campus at the time that I was there actually served me very well in my future business career and provided me with a benefit that I didn't at all appreciate or understand at the time I was at Princeton. Namely, as I went off and worked on Wall Street, which was at a time that there were very few women, I found that I could sit in a boardroom addressing an all-male board and feel extremely comfortable because I'd already had that experience of having to make my voice heard in an all-male precept.
To be a woman at Princeton in the early to mid-1980s meant that when you looked around, there were 2 young men for every one of you. But I knew the university was headed in the right direction in terms of gender equality because that ratio actually was better than what had existed just a few years before I had arrived.
One of the reasons that I'm so proud of our alma mater is that over the years, Princeton has done so much for students who are just like I was, enabling them as first-gen and low-income students to become who they were intended to be.
Although I never thought about it at the time, in retrospect, I'm almost certain that my admittance to Princeton was a result of affirmative action. I didn't realize how unusual it would be to be a young black woman in this field of study.
I remember Sally Frank had brought her lawsuit while we were on campus and challenging the all-male eating clubs, and so there was definitely a tone of challenging the past and challenging history of Princeton and the fact that we were one of the last or the last Ivy to go co-ed, maybe. So there was, it's interesting. It was also not a time where you saw GLBT people. And I came out as a lesbian after leaving Princeton. I did not see women on gay women on campus, lesbians on campus. It was just something that we predated, I think, that becoming part of the campus life.
To me, what makes Princeton women special is the fact that women have not necessarily been on this campus that long, but have found the right ways to make themselves known. And that takes a lot of bravery, and I think it takes a lot of support from one another. So I see Princeton women really going above and beyond in the support that they give one another and the things that they do to celebrate being Princeton women, but also the things that they, again, challenge the university, that we can still make strides and improve on these situations. So making of Princeton a place that is equally for the women and men that are here.
In Chinese culture, there's this concept of opportunity and challenge. Challenge and opportunity, it's yin and yang. Here at Princeton, there were so many opportunities, but even the challenges represented opportunities.
I learned at Princeton to take advantage of opportunity, to go after what I wanted, to not be afraid to fail, and to support others, and both in moments of extreme joy as well as moments of challenge.
Princeton made me braver, more courageous. I had arrived at Princeton with a lot of bravery, with a lot of courage, but it made me more so. The way it enticed me to investigate, it forced me to write better, to argue better, to prove my point or to disprove a point or whatever it was that I needed to do. That's what Princeton did for me, and that's the courage and that's the confidence that I carry as I walk through the world.
At graduation, I was very honored to receive the Alan Macy Dulles Award for the student representing Princeton's motto, Princeton in the nation's service and in the service of humanity. But I think that an award like this really speaks to Princeton's culture of service, not only in encouraging students from the moment that they enroll, but also once they graduate, the many programs that they offer. And I feel very honored to be part of that tradition of service.
Princeton is a place in constant flux. Paradoxically, it's a place that doesn't change. And in that I mean that it's a place that never loses its aspirational nature of striving to raise us all up through the best of what humanity offers.
We are in a time, and we are always in a time, when we need strong female leaders, and there is no better place to breed women of substance and strength
in Princeton University.
As an adult, Princeton taught me that the greatest gift we can bestow on others is to welcome and to know them for who they are. My fondest hope for the women of Princeton is that we can use our awesome powers to enrich and release the lives of countless others around the world.
We're all sisters in this together. I think this is the best part about being a Princeton Tiger. We can help each other forward.
Princeton is such an incredible place with so much opportunity, and there's really no better environment in which to really thrive and flourish.
And I predict that women alums will continue to make our mark on Princeton and on the world beyond.
On that final note, I would say thank you to Princeton.